Locker room sanctity among the topics. Steve Kerr talked about on Saturday why it's so important for teams to not have leaks, especially from inside practices, locker rooms, where it is just supposed to be, only for the initiated.
This is why it's so crucial to keep things in-house. I've been in this league for 30 plus years. I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff. When things are kept internally, it's really almost easy to handle them. It's just so much cleaner and smoother, and you can move forward. As soon as things are leaked, now all hell breaks loose. And that affects every single player, coach, but especially the players. So because of that, because everything is out there, the players are now having to deal with all of this stuff. We're having to answer all these questions, and it puts us in a very, very difficult spot, everybody in a difficult spot, because it's like if you had a camera in your family and there was a family dispute, would you really want to discuss it with the world? No, of course not. You'd want to handle it internally. So that's always the goal. And, for whatever reason, we've had leaks in this organization. This is not the first time. So that needs to be cleaned up. And that's a big part of the issue.
You can tell he's really chapped about this, as he should be. And he is right. It's a lot easier to keep things contained when they stay contained within our own walls. But where Steve, I think, doesn't understand with the direction that, let me tell you, there is a portion of the public, Larry, that would be more than happy to film their own family's interpersonal fighting and put it on social media for clicks.
It's called the Maury Povich Show, isn't it?
No, but it really, the lack of discretion, the lack of dignity of this just doesn't need to be put out on Front Street.
Right.
That is pervasive. I mean, forget it. If we can get mom yelling at dad, we can maybe trend on TikTok. Get that up on the talk. Do it quick. Put it on the gram.
Anything to be trending.
Really. It's just pathetic. And yeah, obviously, Steve, it's a lot easier to slaughter pigs if no one, sees you do it. And that's what they're saying here. You don't want to know how the sausage is made. And the NBA also knows it wouldn't be good for our business if you saw how the sausage was made. There's a lot of stuff that happens in professional locker rooms that because you went through some HR training this week isn't going to sit well with you. And the NBA doesn't want your HR training in its locker room and in its practices. But neither does the NBA, neither does baseball, neither does any sport.
The only thing I'll push back on that is I don't think it is bad for business. I mean, I would say a good portion of the NBA discussion is about stuff that happens off the floor and not on the floor. Now, this is a fisticuff deal, but it doesn't necessarily shine a bright light on Draymond Green or the Warriors, but it's not. I mean, you can say it's negative, but it still drives a lot of traction, drives a lot of conversation. The opposite of love
car crash, there's rubbernecking.
And the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And there's nobody's indifferent on this. You guys have noticed over the last 4 or 5 days, you got the Niners, you got the NFL, you got all kinds of other stories. People have parked their sports talk ears at this story for the most part. Why? Because it's salacious. And there's a lot of layers to it, and it's interesting. And so, the NBA, you can bemoan whatever you want to bemoan, but you're taking it right to the bank. The league is. If you took away all discussion of players and coaches that didn't get along, my God, would they even have anything to talk about on any of these middle of the day ESPN NBA shows?
Right. There's no way they're breaking down pick and rolls.
No. And tonight, Spurs, Grizzlies, that's a snoozer. But if there's some kind of personal, this guy, the vendettas, and this guy hates that guy, that sells. That absolutely sells. I'm kind of wondering what is the bigger issue to Kerr and the Warriors? Because I heard Kerr say, hey, I've been in the NBA for decades. I've seen fights like this 20, 25 times, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you haven't seen leaks of this nature 20 or 25 times. So does the leak? It sounded to me like Steve was upset with Draymond, but has seen it before, but is really, really chapped at the person who leaked this and hasn't seen it before, and or if he has seen it before, he didn't reference it. But that kind of makes you look a little bit, like paranoia will overtake your organization because what's being taped? What can I trust? What can I trust? Who's talking out of school?
Just today, this is fresh, hot off today's press conference presses. Steve Kerr was basically, kind of accused. Like, it sort of, Steve, looks like you care more about the video being leaked than what we actually saw in the video. And Steve basically said, yeah, guilty as charged. Yeah.
I'm concerned about both. They're both a problem. The incident was a problem. The leak was a problem. I don't rank these things. My job as a coach is to prepare us to play, to make sure we can put the best team on the floor possible. And that job requires a ton of navigation, and it's very tricky. And it's made much trickier when there is a leak, because then everything's out in the open. So the job is to handle everything behind the scenes with conversations, and then when it's out in the open, answering questions, like this one. But we are going to get through all this, and we're going to be okay. But it's that was a long way of saying they both concern me.
And they should both concern him. They absolutely should. No one wants their personal business out there on Front Street, except for the 45% of the American public that, anything for attention these days. It's sad. It's an indictment on the society we're now living in. Draymond Green, in his Saturday afternoon, I'm so sorry, press conference, was asked about the leak and what he thought of it. And here's what Draymond said.
What did I think of the fact of the video leaking? If I'm being 100% honest, I thought it was bull. No other video leaks from practice. When we're working on our sets, they don't leak. When I'm coaching everyone up, that doesn't leak. So I thought it was bull that the video leaked.
I would understand that, but here's the thing: you got to know why you coaching anyone up doesn't leak, and you working on your floppy sets, it doesn't leak because that's normal. What we had here was the leak of the abnormal, or at least the abnormal to the public that saw it and really got, I think, an eyeful of things that didn't just sound like a fight at practice. Well, that's the thing.
We don't know the culprit. That's the problem with the leak.
Well,
it would be like if Draymond if all of a sudden Jordan Poole got dropped, but the lights went dark at practice and nobody saw who dropped him and nobody was owning it. Well, then we got a real issue, right? We got a
Clue, all of a sudden, all the lights go out, and then there's someone laying in a chalk outline. It's like, was it the candlestick? Was it the butcher, the baker?
It was Professor Plum with the wrench in the study.
Colonel Mustard.
Yeah. No, but if we didn't know, we have a culprit. We know who did it, but we don't know who released this video. And so it kind of, I think there's a lot more room for paranoia, and there's a lot more room for questions. And basically, you have one thing that's answered, and now it's about the healing. We know Draymond dropped Jordan Poole. Now it's about the aftermath and how they get beyond the interpersonal relationships and the impact on the floor, off the floor, teammates, other players, so on and so forth. There's lots of things you can point to, but you know who did it. This situation is who knows. Who knows? Is it your video guy? Is it this guy? Is it that guy? I'm sure Steve and Bob and the people in that organization probably know the people that it could not be and the people that it potentially could be. And I would imagine that there's some really uneasy moments for just around the Warrior organization right now as they try to get to the bottom of this.
A guy on the YouTube chat says, nobody outside of Cali cares. San Francisco's not outside of California. Our audience, no matter where you're joining us from, for the most part, resides in Northern California. And we are also the Golden State Warriors flagship station. So if I have to explain why we're still talking about this on Monday, you don't have the mental capacity to even enjoy employment. I don't know what to tell you. If you don't understand why this is a story here, the short bus is the only bus you're comfortable on. Okay? There is no doubt why this is still a story here in our market. And believe me, they are talking about this in other places. This is a bigger story than anyone wants to admit. And it's certainly a bigger story than the Warriors wanted out there. By the way, here's a little bit more from Draymond on that video leak.
What did I think of myself in the moment? I watched the video 15 times, maybe more. Because when I watch the video, I'm looking at the video and I'm like, yo, this looks awful. This looks even worse than I thought it was. It's pathetic. And then I had to take a step back too and realize that this video was actually released this way to look that way, for whoever released the video. I don't know who released the video. I am very thankful to the Warriors organization for taking it as serious as they have and launching the investigation that they have, because quite frankly, they don't have to. They're not obligated to launch an investigation for something that I did wrong. They're not obligated to do that. So I appreciate them taking that as serious as they have and are doing.
They are obligated actually to look at this. This is their, priority, or what's the word I'm looking for?
The people who leaked this work for them.
Right. That's the thing. This is priority. Or I don't think no, it's not priority. What's the word I'm looking? Proprietary. That's, I think, the word I'm trying to say. Ray without vocabulary in this moment, I know he would. But look, this is the Warriors' business, and it 100% affects them. And they need to know where it came from, because I'm going to tell you it came from two places: money to be made and an axe to be ground. And maybe that axe was against the team or Draymond himself, but this is, give me the money, and I don't care whose reputation I damage with this video. That's kind of where this came from. By the way,
or it could just be about money, because the money was a ton, if you believe the figures that have been released.
What I saw, like $500,000 maybe?
Somebody said 2.6 million or 2.5 million.
For 2.6 million, I'm leaking any video.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It could be somebody who just doesn't make a lot of money who's looking at a retirement. They don't necessarily have.
Make sure you're not reading Ballsack Sports there, by the way.
Well, I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm just saying that outside, if you're not making, forget what you're making. Somebody offers you $2.6 million, if that is indeed the figure. That you're taking that. I'm not saying that it, everybody would take it. I'm just saying you don't need any more motivation than the $2.6 million, probably.
By the way, Matthew on the text line, thank you. He's got my back on proprietary. I eventually got to it. Thank you very much. By the way, welcome to your 4 o'clock hour.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app. Damn well better be free.
Lucas, darling.
Van Lathan used to work at TMZ, and he, I think, tweeted or told somebody that usually TMZ, for videos like that, pays somewhere between $50,000 and $150,000. And it depends on how desperate they were for the video and how the whole negotiating process went. But I'm guessing around 6 digits, right around 100,000.
Well, look at it this way. We should have gone and met that and trumped it, because that video has more views than any single game of the last NBA Finals.
And if you made $50,000 a year doing a job and somebody was going to give you twice your salary potentially, what do you care if you get fired? You got a 2-year deal.
Anyone who's taken that thankless video room job someday thinks in their mind that they're going to be Eric Spoelstra.
Maybe.
Like they think, you don't have a job as an up-and-coming gopher nobody on an NBA roster.
You could love basketball. We both know people who work in and around teams that they just love the team. They just love in the environment, and they're not making a ton, right?
Right, so. But I would think that everyone there has their eyes on a bigger basketball prize being down the road waiting for them once they've put in the time, the effort that it takes to deserve that opportunity, whatever the next opportunity would be. So you'd have to be really bought out of your career plans for a self-sabotaging, should you ever be found out. You'd never have another day of employment again in the NBA.
Right.
Should you be found out about that. You'd never be employed in sports again. There'd be a lot of future companies that would look at that, score it against you, and not hire you.
Sure.
Because you're the leak. You're the mole.
Right. But you also got maybe 6 figures in the bank account, and nobody's taking that away from you either.
No. But goes real fast, that's for sure. Phil Mo Mike, and one of the best callers the station has. What's going on, Phil Mo?
Oh, man, I appreciate that, Damon, man. You know how I feel about you and your vocabulary skills.
Thank you.
Hey, but this is my thing, man. Draymond out of pocket on so many levels, but the reason I think people getting annoyed, Damon, because They want, like, what, say, for instance, Jordan Poole is satisfied. He got the apology. You know, Draymond might have threw him, you know, a Rolex under the table or something like that. Here, bro, 50,000. I'm sorry, you know, it ain't nothing, but it is what it is. He may be cool with it. People got to get out their personal feelings about this, because if the team moved on, we need to move on. But I totally feel why you talking about it. I just want to say the Niners they did their thing yesterday, and everybody criticizing Jimmy G. Jimmy G had a solid game yesterday.
Yeah,
he were criticizing Jimmy G.
He did. Filmo, you're all over it. And you're right about everything you just said. Mostly, Jordan Poole needs to not even do Draymond the solid at this point. Needs to do the team the solid, that when he's finally ready to talk about this. And I wonder if the Warriors are really setting this up, that Jordan's not going to be facing the media until he is addressing what will, I believe, the Warriors will now make real, this contract extension, should he want to sign it. And maybe that'll be the time when we hear from Jordan Poole.
He might never address this,
but
really.
Jordan Poole, well, here's the thing. Then you're going to let others decide it for you. You know, if you would like the end of this, you need to bring down the curtain on the topic yourself. No one can bring down the curtain for you. Jordan Poole walking up to Draymond Green and putting his arm around him makes this all go away almost instantly. So I hope that he will do that for himself, for the sake of the team, for the sake of the season that's coming up. He doesn't have to do that. It's up to him to do that. But I think that he is such a basketball tough cookie that he knows that that's the next step, and he's going to. You know, let Draymond twist in the wind here for a day or two. But then it's going to be time to just get this behind everyone, because this team has major, major goals and aspirations for this year. And there isn't anybody on this team that wants this to be a reason why things didn't work out in the end. So you just nip them before they even really began, or began more.
I mean, I think there's a bigger issue that needs to be discussed with the Warriors, and it's not necessarily about this punch. It's about this consistent vaulting over the line. And that's what Draymond Green has shown as far as a pattern of behavior. He's a winner. He's real. He's got a winner's mentality. He's got tremendous will to win on the floor. A lot of positives go along with Draymond, but he crosses the line. And he crosses the line with multiple people.
Like Dave Chappelle said, he's a habitual line stepper.
Some people cross the line. And so I think the Warriors have to know that they've got a player who crosses the line, and just ask themselves.
They know. I mean, they know.
But do they want to continue on? Is it okay? Exceptions have been made for people that produce at absurd levels forever. Right. It's like that for the top selling salesperson in your sales department wherever you work. You think there's not people at SiriusXM that don't like Howard Stern and the fact he's got his own elevator and this and that? Yeah, I'm sure they do. But guess what? He produces millions of dollars for SiriusXM. So guess what? They're going to live with it. Did you think everybody loved Barry Bonds?
Right.
As soon as Barry Bonds hit 25 home runs and not 73 home runs, they marched his ass out of town. He couldn't find a job anywhere. Why? Because if you produce absurdly, they'll make exceptions. As soon as your production drops, you're gone. So is that going to be the way they're going to play it with Draymond? As soon as his skill level continues to drop to a certain level, now all of a sudden they're going to show him the door? Or are they going to, because they've looked the other way. They've looked the other way as he's vaulted across the line in the past. I personally would stay with him because I think he's absolutely integral to their winning. I don't think they win without him. I don't think they'll win without him going forward. But it has to be addressed that this is continuous behavior of vaulting over the line.
What I think is going to happen, and by the way, did you know that they lock down SiriusXM? When Howard is out of the studio, no one's allowed to leave whatever studio they're in until Howard has reached his car. It's so obnoxious.
I actually got bumped into him in his elevator. I jumped on the wrong elevator. I was working for Mad Dog Radio, and the door opened, and it was him. He's like, "What the F are you doing in my elevator?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know it was your elevator." It was like, it was like the end of my show, beginning of his show, and he was outraged that I was in his elevator. But they have two elevators in this hall, the Hill building in Midtown.
Yeah.
And the left elevator, it used to be both for everybody. Now it's Howard's elevator, and everybody rides the other elevator.
It's power. It's power, man. I'm not going to lie. I don't want Ray Ratto on my elevator when I come here. So, maybe we can get that around. Wouldn't that be incredible if we just had an elevator for Ray and then one for all the rest of us here at 95.7 The Game.
There's 2 elevators, but only he gets his own.
You get the Ray-Evator. This is Tommy and Milpitas. Tommy, what do you got?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on. Second-time caller.
Nice. We get 50 cents. 25 cents for the first call, 50 cents for the second. Thank you.
We got you.
Go, Tommy. Go.
Yes. So some folks are saying that Steve Kerr seems more upset about the video leak than he did what actually happened, and I think he's totally right for that. Kerr is not just their coach; he builds relationships with all these players. They're people too. So he's not upset that he didn't get to sweep this under the rug. What's going on is he's looking out for his players' future, for the organization's future. He cares about these guys, and he knows that this is going to travel with them throughout their career and their lives going forward. So I think Coach Kerr is absolutely right to be more upset about this leak.
It's more rare. Yeah, I think the leak is more rare than the fight.
It's the bigger outlier. There's no doubt. First of all, just to chalk up fights is just common. It's not common, but it's not uncommon. For a leak to happen like that from any team's practice, unless the New England Patriots are involved, it is uncommon.
Yeah, I'll say this. It is common compared to corporate life in America to see it in sports. I actually watched film in a Canadian Football League team where coaches fought each other over literally half a quarter inch of, was that the DB's ball or the linebacker's ball? You saying that's my guy's ball? I'm saying that's your guy. And all of a sudden, here comes fisticuffs. And that's coaches watching film with nobody around. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of type A personalities in sports. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of emotion. So I'm not excusing it, but it's not, your day at whatever company you're working for. And if you compare it to it, it doesn't compare.
Leo, 880, real quick, and then we got Michael Irvin joining us next segment. What do you got, Leo?
Hey, yeah, and I just hadn't heard this talk about, and I'd just love to know your opinion. Do you think this costs Draymond his TNT job?
Costs him his job? Absolutely not. Draymond is, how about this? They're hiring one of the most interesting guys in basketball. He is not less interesting now. I don't know if this affects the way people will want to work with him or around him, but Draymond has a incredibly lucrative broadcasting career waiting for him, whether he is a model citizen or does this again 3 weeks from now when it's over, because content is now king, and Draymond Green is great for content, and the last few days of radio can just be offered up as proof of that.
If he did something that somehow the TNT sponsors were all offended by and those people pulled out, then
until he's costing them money, the answer is he's fine.
Right.